Our next card is going to be a little wreath, a circle, and you could have it this way or you could have it this way. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna keep mine like this. So you're gonna want something to trace a circle that's about this big. You'll wanna find something that makes it about the right shape, and I'm gonna use a red Dixie cup, a big glass or a jar lid. There are all kinds of things that could work. I'm gonna kind of center it on my paper, and I'm just gonna very lightly draw my circle. I don't want it to be too dark. That works. So you will probably need watercolors, or if you wanted to do this with colored pencil, that would be the other thing that I would recommend. We're gonna start with whatever color flowers you want to do. I'm gonna do mine in kind of a pink shade, and I'm not gonna put a color everywhere. I'm just gonna choose a few little spots. So what I'm gonna do is this is gonna be like a wreath, and there's going to be flowers coming over here and all around this area. So I'm just going to go right outside the circle. I'm just gonna paint a squiggle shape, just a few of them. And if you notice, the paint's pretty wet. I'm not making these all one flower, by the way, so they don't try to think of those as petals to an individual flower. Okay. I'm gonna do another couple over here. A little bit over here. And maybe a couple over here. I'm gonna go back over those, get them a little bit bolder, because remember with watercolor, it does dry lighter. Right, now I'm going to use some green, and I wanna use a pretty watered down green at first. I'm just going to come around this wreath, this circle. Well, I need a little more than that. I'll come around this circle. I'm gonna go all the way up into here with this. And just a little bit on this side there. I'm gonna leave this empty because I'm gonna do a lot more leaves and vines over here. Let's start on this side. We are going to we're gonna weave a little bit. So just kind of come really thin brush. You're just going to make yourself a few little lines. And then you want to start putting some little leaf shapes. So just curve, kind of fill that in. Each branch should end with a leaf, but they'll have several other ones coming off of it. Just using the tip of my brush to draw that and kind of put that on there. If you have more than one green, or if you can mix a little bit of yellow with your green, that would be a good idea, just to give yourself some variance. You can see that if the paint doesn't have a lot of water, it's gonna be pretty dark. And if I want to lighten that up while it's still damp, I can just take a tissue and blot that off a little bit. I didn't really want it to be quite that dark. All right, I'm gonna go back over some of this and put a little bit of yellow in these. You're just going to want to fill up this area, and you can do some larger leaves as well. I'm going to do these in this lighter lime green, and then I'm going to come back and darken them a little bit. So I've gotten small, I've gotten really large. I want to go ahead and conclude this a little bit around this area with a little bit of smaller branches again coming out of there, just to try to make this kind of culminate like it started. I might want to put another little flower, just a little peak of one up in there, and maybe one over here too. All right, now we're going to work on these leaves over here. So we're going to try to weave a lot of different vines coming through here. If you just use the tip of your brush, you can get some thin little lines. go back and start working on the leaves. So every stem is going to either end in flower or a leaf. You're just going to fill up the vines. Remember to use a variety of colors. So you want to go back in and just put some extra color on top of what you already have. And make some leaves really large and some smaller. I'm just going to try to fill up this whole area with different size leaves. When you're happy with that, and there's more I could do to this, I could go back and define these flowers. I could give them centers. I could make the leaves connect more with the, you know, the make sure the vines, that every flower had a vine and every vine has leaves. Anyway, but as you're working on that, make sure you leave some white area and some kind of mystery. You don't want to completely make everything make sense, because we're not really going for photorealism here. We're just doing this hint of the spray of flowers. So you just want colors in here, and you want it to, well, you don't want it to look like a complete hot mess, of course, but you do want it to just be still a little abstract. After this dries, then you can paint inside here, or you can write your message here. And I'm going to write with my brush, because you can do kind of a nice cursive calligraphy almost with a brush like this. So I have my brush rolled to a point. Remember, when I'm rubbing it, let me show you, when I'm rubbing it on the paint, the last thing I do is twist and pull away so I have a nice little point. And you do want your paint to be somewhat fluid, or it won't flow while you're trying to write. And you can just write something, you know, simple like Happy Mother's Day, or I'm so glad that you're my mom, or I love you. I'm going to do Happy Mother's Day. So I'm going to do Happy Mother's Day. When you're doing a calligraphy type stroke, there's happy. I think my H should be a little bit taller. All right. Then mother's is going to fit in here pretty nicely. gonna go back to lowercase. Okay. If you need to, and I probably should have done that, if you use a ruler and make yourself very, very light lines, then you can actually get that lined up a little bit better. Because I was tilting my sideways, it looked straight to me, and then when I turned it back, I realized it wasn't, so you might want to do a ruler. Another thing to know is that when this is all dry, you can come back and erase the pencil lines that you had on there before. Any pencil lines that are still visible can be erased, and it makes it look a little bit cleaner. But make sure it's dry, or else that's gonna happen.